Hi, my name is Tanya Janca, and today we are going to talk about building security champions. So, security champions don't just appear out of nowhere and be awesome and do everything perfectly. You have to find the right people, like attract them, find them, engage with them, teach them, and build them up into being your champions. And security champions are those people that are on every other team except the security team, but who sing the praises and advocate for security. They're the people that alert you when things should happen. They're the people that let you know what's going on, and they help proliferate that knowledge that you've given them to all the other teams. And we're going to talk basically about how to scale your team today. Oh, and I'm Tanya Janca, also known as She Hacks Purple. I am your giant nerd that will talk to you during this talk. Okay, let's do this. So, I like to tell you what I'm going to tell you, then I tell you, then I tell you what I told you. I'm that type of speaker. And so we are going to talk about scaling your security team and scaling your security program. We're going to talk about what security champions are and how to build them up. So how to find people who are interested in security or curious and then turn them into champions. This is the recipe we're going to follow. So we're going to go back to this recipe all throughout the talk. And I'm going to give you a bunch of action items for each one. And then basically I hope you go off and build totally awesome security champion teams. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to recruit people. We're going to engage the people we find. We're going to teach them awesome stuff. We're going to recognize them for the hard work that they are doing. We're going to reward them for the awesome work they're doing. And then the most important part, don't stop. Most security champions programs start off hot, fast, super energetic, and then after 3 months they run out of steam. And so we're going to talk about how to pace yourself so it continues and it's good. And basically you have this amazing program for years to come. Okay, so who the heck am I? So speakers do this where we talk about ourselves and tell you about ourselves in hopes to show you that we're totally qualified to give our own talk. So I founded my own startup company, We Hack Purple. I'm also known as She Hacks Purple. I wrote a book, Alice and Bob Learns Application Security. I've been in tech a long time. I'm one of the founders of WOSEC, Women of Security. I love OWASP. I am a nerd at large on the internet, and I hope this is enough for you. You're like, she's all right. I guess I'll sit through this. I'll tolerate Tanya for a while. Good. So let's talk about the problem for 1 second, and then for the rest of the talk, let's just fix the problem. Okay. So the problem, there's just not enough security professionals. And what I specialize in is the security of software. So everything I say is going to have a software slant rather than a hardware, infrastructure, IoT, cloud slant. I'm always focusing around software because I was a software developer for a really long time. I've been coding since I was 16 years old, and that is a long time. And I still write code sometimes. And I read a lot of code. And so there's not enough security people to do all the jobs. And it's a problem. It's a problem in our industry. And so what we need to do is we need to scale our program. And often in security, or just in tech in general, we talk about scaling. I made a web app and I only thought I'd get 100 visitors a day, but I'm getting 1,000 visitors a day, and that's awesome. But I need to scale, my infrastructure, and maybe I need to re-architect my app so it could handle this new load. Well, guess what? The security team is drastically outnumbered, and so we need to scale ourselves. And hiring 25 more people to the security team is usually not an option, and so we need to find other ways where we're not working more hours and burning ourselves out. We need to find ways where we work smarter and better and more effectively and more efficiently. And one of those ways that we can scale our teams is security champions. And that's what this whole talk will be about. And you don't have to be in application security. You could be in other areas of security. It's okay. You could still do security champions. But when I have an app focus, that's why, because that's my history. So formal definition of security champions. So I'm going to read it to you and then show it to you because you're just going to, actually we'll just read it together. So security champion is a member of the team that takes on the responsibility of acting as the primary advocate for security within the team and acting as the first line of defense for security issues within the team. So that's like Wikipedia, thank you very much. But let's say it more plainly. It is the person that is the most excited about security. It's the person that reads the book, that fixes the bug, that asks the questions, that shows up for the lunch and learn every single time. That's the champion. That's your person. And so what is a security champion, Tanya? Like, you're giving these vague definitions. Could you tell me more? Of course. I've got like 34 more minutes more for you. So what is a security champion? Okay, they are your communicator. So they deliver messages, like security messages, to the dev team. They teach and they share and they help. So you train all of your champions and then they go off and help other people with that security stuff. They're your point of contact. So they deliver messages back to the security team and keep you up to date on what matters. They alert you if there's scary stuff that they noticed. If they trust you, they will tell you so many things. And they are your advocate. So they perform security work for their dev team with your help, and they advocate for security. And so what I mean by that is I have a bit of a cold. Sorry, there's a frog in my throat, sort of. So if I sound scratchy, it's because it is. They advocate for security. So they'll be the person in the meeting that you can't make it to because you were never invited to that team meeting. And they're like, you know what? I'm not sure if that's a really secure way to do it. Maybe we should ask run this by the security team and see if they have ideas of how we could do this safer. Them saying that is such a huge deal. It can change the entire trajectory of a project of them just speaking up in a meeting. And they are the peers of their teammates. You aren't. You're on some other team. You're security. You're over here. Perhaps some of them consider you their enemy or their frenemy or that person that says no all the time. But this security champion is their peer and what that person thinks matters to them. And they will take them more seriously and trust them more readily. And that is the magic of security champions. So let's talk about building champions. And we're going to do this recipe, like I said. So we're going to go through all 6 of these one at a time for the rest of this talk. And yeah, let's be awesome together. Okay, so first of all, recruit. So we are going to recruit champions. Yeah, champions. I know that I'm silly. I'm silly all the time, not just when I give talks. That's just part of the deal. But the information I'm giving is good despite my silly demeanor. Okay, so the number 1 rule in recruiting security champions, this is the most important thing, do not volunteer someone to be a champion. It's like, hey, you were late to the meeting, you're a security champion. Ha ha. That's not gonna be good. That person's not gonna be awesome. They're not gonna be helpful. What we want to do is we want to attract the right people. And so even if this person's like junior dev and they hardly know anything, but they're excited about security, that person will do more for you. Even though they know less, they have less authority, that person that is excited, curious, interested, that's the one you actually want. Okay, so number 2 most important rule, managers need to be on board. If managers are not bored, they will stop them from doing this work. They'll be like, Tanya, stop wasting so-and-so's time. I don't have time for you to take my staff member. Stop it. You don't want that. That sucks. That sucks for your champion. It sucks for you. So it's really important that managers need to be on board. You need to have you don't have to have approval for your program, but it'll go way better if you do. I didn't have approval for my program. I had no idea what I was doing. And before I knew it, I had a champions program and someone that I met was like, oh, so you have security champions. I'm like, what's that? There's just like a person on each team that's my person that I always talk to. And they just like, how'd you find them? I'm like, they sort of self-identified. I just kept doing all this stuff and they just kept showing up. And it's like, oh, well, I'm going to ask Liam because he's the one that always shows up. I'm going to ask Stefan because he's always the one that asks the questions and shows up. And then eventually, they're your champions. And so let's come up with a plan for recruiting. Okay, so like I said, ask for volunteers instead of appointing people without consent. Consent is cool. Provide opportunities for them to reveal themselves. And so this might sound so silly, but someone that I work with, I suggested he add it to his signature of his email. It's just like, I'm looking for security champions. Is this you? Ask me how. And he found 4 people responded and 2 of them became security champions. Yes! Attract your volunteers. So use lunch and learns or give trainings. I know that I'm a professional public speaker at this point, so people are like, oh, well, that's easy for you. Well, it was not always easy for me, and I sucked just as much as the next person when I started. And it is like brute force practicing over and over and over again that made me good at this. I was not magically good at it. Trust me, I really sucked. Anyone who asks questions or attends events, that person could be your champion. Use interesting titles for stuff if you can. So my first lunch and learn, I sent an email to all the devs that I knew and I said, I'm going to break into a bank at lunch. Who wants to watch me hack? And a bunch of people showed up and they're like, what are you talking about, Tanya? You can't break into a bank. I'm like, it's a fake bank, but I'm going to break in. And then I showed them what SQL injection was and they were like, okay, so that was actually kind of neat. I'm like, yeah, let's check our apps to see if we could fall for that trick. Let's make us, and I just kept being really excited like I am, and they kept showing up. And even though it was terrifying at first for me to talk to them, eventually I'm like, these are just my teammates. They're just people on other teams. They're people from where I work. They're not scary. They're actually really nice. It turns out, I mean, they were always nice to me before that, but I guess I was afraid that I would speak and that they would become mean, which in retrospect makes no sense. But anyway, they kept putting up with me and it got better and better. And I also, this is a thing that has helped in so many organizations, is adopting the mantra. So the security team adopts the mantra, it is my job to serve you. So my friend Ray first told me this, and I didn't realize that I did this, but he worded it in a way that's just so good. He would tell his devs, you're my customer. I work for you. And they're like, no, you don't. You work for the security team. He's like, no, they pay me, but I work for you. It's my job to make sure that you can do your job securely. And so if you're off here and you don't know the answers and stuff and I'm not helping you, then I'm failing. My customer service is bad. And so I work for you, buddy. Even though you don't pay me, I work for you. And it really changed things for him. And I had never worded it that way, but I'm like, I'm here to help, right? And when we change our mantra from we are the people who say no, or we are the people who are frantically trying to control these software developers and DevOps and operations people, and they're all out of control and I want to control them. When we change it, our mindset from that to they have to build apps, they have to release software, they have to support the infrastructure that these apps are sitting on. And it's like, it's my job to help you make sure you can do that safely and securely. It's my job to help in any way I can to make sure what you're building, what you're supporting is safe and secure for our customers to use. And when you like adopt this, it sounds weird, but the way you word things, the way you approach things changes. And that has been magical in recruiting so many more people to your program. Okay, so we're going to go back to the recipe now, and now we're on engagement. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Then I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas. When I give you ideas for each of these are just things that I've done. Anything goes. Anything that is positive and respectful and not breaking the law and not breaking policy at your work can go. And that can mean like all sorts of things. And so if you have a creative idea that is different than these ideas, do it. Okay, so engagement. So engagement means to occupy, attract, or involve people. And for us, this means in security activities, right? So we want to try to get them involved, interested, etc. It also means participate or become involved And we want them to do that with us, but we want to reciprocate that with them. So like this is a two-way street. You can't expect them to be super excited running around like living and breathing security if you don't care what they do. And so both ways. So engage. So ways that, like a way that I got engaged is I got brought on a security incident. So I was on the security team, but I was actually an enterprise architect. I was briefly an enterprise architect. Turns out I just love security. And I just kept doing security. And then they had a big security incident. And I said, like, could I just sit in? And they're like, I don't see the harm. And then there was code. And I could read the code. And then I told them what the code said. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting attacked like this. And they're like, you can just read that crap on the screen? I'm like, oh yeah. And then I was on the incident team for that incident. And then I got to investigate. And I was just like, this is amazing. So if you can bring a dev and let them help you investigate, first of all, they're going to know a bunch of stuff you might not know, especially if it's their app or an app they've supported. And like you just got a fan for life. Share appropriate secrets. So I worked somewhere, and so this was not my idea. This was a guy, Phil. It was his idea, and I was like, Phil, this stupid idea, don't do this. And I'd like to know I was wrong. Phil was right. I'm sure somewhere he's like, yes. And he shared all the dirty details of a security incident that we had, 2 incidents. And I really didn't want to. I'm a perfectionist sometimes, and I found it embarrassing to admit that we failed at something. But when he shared it with them, they became energized. They're like, this will never happen again. We had no idea you needed us. I'm like, of course we need you. But I hadn't communicated in a way that made sense to them. And when Phil told them all the stuff, he's like, Tanya, tell them what it was like to talk to that one employee where we lost some of her personal data and how we had to get credit monitoring for her. And like, she was a grandma and she was crying. I was trying to help her, teach her how to change her bank passwords and stuff. And he's like, we made an employee cry. That was awful. That was an awful day. And it's because we screwed up and we can't do this without you. And it was like a strangely emotional work meeting, but they were warriors for us after that. It was amazing, like a complete change of attitude. And so you can do this too. Steal Phil's awesome idea. Let them see everything first. These are your awesome people. These are people on the inside track. And you want to make them feel like it. So show them the cool new tools. Tell them information that's coming. Tell them everything and share everything with them that is appropriate for you to share before everyone else, because they are special. So treat them like they're special. Create a mailing list and tell them about new security stuff. And the security stuff can be anything you want, right? Like anything that's upcoming, something new you learned. Here's a podcast episode that came out that's about like this framework that I know some of you work on. You sharing information with them, even if they only read it half the time, it's still awesome when they do because they're learning. If you can, meet with them once every month and have a list of questions. So my friend Ray has been doing this for 5 years with his security champion team. And he always asks the same 3 things. What are you working on? What are you going to work on? Do you need any help? Those 3 questions are magical. And then you help them. And you ask more questions. And you find out if there's security stuff. And other things will end up coming up in that meeting. And sometimes nothing comes up. And you're like, cool, see you next week. But other times they're like, there was this thing. And then they spill secrets. Brace yourself for bad news so that you can play it cool. As you can tell, I'm a very expressive person. I really suck at hiding my feelings. I'm like really bad at lying, which is fine. However, when someone gives me bad security news, I have learned to be like, they're like, oh, so this is probably nothing, but I'm always like, play it cool, Tanya, pretend you're playing poker, be chill, don't, because the first time one of them did that, I was like, oh my God. And that did not help my case, and it scared them, then they didn't want to tell me stuff anymore. So play it cool if you can. Note to self. Do team building events if you can so that they can know each other because they can support each other. And if you're busy, they might ask some other person and find the answer from them or work together. And that re-cements their relationship as a security champion. Invite them to join security communities. So I used to be the OWASP chapter leader in my city, and then now we have a pandemic and everything's awful. But anyway, and so what I would do is, like, obviously as the chapter leader, I always know what was happening that month. And I'd be like, hey guys, guess what? This is happening. Does anyone want to come with me? And we would actually walk from work together to the community event and learn together and eat pizza together and do all of the stuff. And it, first of all, formed great relationships. And second of all, like, haha, you're learning. Mwahaha, I'm getting my goal. Okay, so next, what do you teach these people? What are you going to teach your champions? I have had so many clients. So I teach like at We Hack Purple, and I make courses at We Hack Purple, and I give training to companies and stuff. But I also consult on the side, and I do like lots of just one-off phone calls with companies and help them. And you would not believe, like, everyone's like, let's teach them all these crazy hacking things. I'm like, are you asking them to become pen testers? Why are you training them to become pen testers? They're like, let's teach them, the ins and out of, every type of encryption. Do you make encryption software? No. Why are you teaching them that? So the number one most important thing in regard to what are you going to teach your champions is only teach them what they need to know. Do not teach them more. Software developers, infrastructure people, cloud people, tech people, we have so much stuff inside our brain. And we have to learn new stuff constantly because our industry changes every second. Every second something's new, especially in security. So don't waste their time with stuff they don't need to know, please. For their sake, for your sake, for industry's sake, just stuff they need to know. So so ask yourself this, what you need, expect, and want from them as champions. What do you need from them? What do you expect from them? And what do you want from them? And I know those are slightly different things. Ask yourself those 3 questions and put that into a list and teach them that. And say explicitly what you want from them. Like, I want you to show up to a one-on-one with me once per month to tell me what's going on, what you're working on, and to see if I can help you. And I want you to show up to, at least one lunch and learn per quarter. Like, you don't have to go to every single one of them, but like show up to at least one, please. And I need you to know our policies that affect your team. And I want you to review new things that like policies, standards, or guidelines that apply to your team. And I want you to alert me if there's anything that's scary that you think I should know about. Like, that literally could be what you say, and that could be your whole program. And maybe it sounds minimal, but then you'll actually get what you want because you told them what you want. You're very specific and you're reasonable. I've heard people say, well, like, they need to do 20 to 30 hours per week with us. I'm like, excuse me? No. They need to do 2 to 3 hours a month. Okay, let's look at topics for champions. So I'm going to dig into each one of these just to be clear. So I'm going to tell you the 3 like kind of top topics, and then I'm going to give you ideas within there. So secure coding and architecture. They write code, they build applications, they need to know secure design, secure architecture, and secure coding. They just do. They need to know the policies, your policies that apply to the work that they do. So don't click this link. I mean, that's stuff you need to cover for everyone, but they need to know, like, if you have a secure coding guideline, they should know it. And tooling. Any tools that you expect them to use as part of their job, or tools where they have to read the results as part of their job, you should be teaching that to them. Okay, so first of all, secure coding and architecture. So I realize I'm biased because I give secure coding training like day and night, but I believe that it is very important. That's why I started a company doing it. You don't have to hire my company. Obviously, it would be cool if you did, but hire any company or give them, there's free stuff on the internet. Like, there's so many things, but if they're doing coding, supporting them in that coding to be secure. Threat modeling, yes. So your security champions, if every time there's a new app that they're architecting, if you could do a half-hour, 1-hour session with them to talk with them, what could go wrong? What keeps you up at night? Invite a product owner or representative, so a person from the business, whatever you would like to call them, and have a discussion. And every single time that you do one of those threat modeling sessions, invite one champion because, first of all, 1, it engages them. 2, they're learning a new skill. And 3, to be quite honest, they are amazing at it. Like, I remember I invited these 2 devs and they're like, we'll need to be here, blah, blah, blah. And then partway through the meeting, I turned to them, I'm like, if you were going to hack your app, how would you do it? Oh, I'd probably go in through like that admin module that we made so we could admin from home. Our boss won't give us overtime and like we have to do this thing at midnight once per month. And like neither of us wanted to drive across town at midnight. So it was not in the design document. It was not anywhere, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was this giant hole into their network. And I would never have found that because it wasn't in the scope of my pen test. And that little one question saved them a lot of heartache, let's just say. Secure architecture. So this can just be whiteboarding out your design and saying, so is there encryption there? How do you know? Do you just have implied trust here? Like, do you authenticate? Do you authorize? Like, what's going on there? How do you know who you're talking to? A bunch of simple questions can lead to changes in architecture and design before anything is built, and you just saved yourself $1 zillion. Code review. Oh, yes, if you can have all of your security champions review pull requests for like 5 different secure things, you will save yourself so much time. How to fix security bugs they find. Like, you want to refresh some sort of security training for these folks at least once a year. Because 1, things change, 2, people forget, and 3, you hire new people. So you want to refresh this at least once every year. I worked somewhere once and they're like, we gave them secure code training. I don't know what the problem was. And it was 2017. And I was like, when did you give the training? And they said 2012. And I said, so yeah. When are we going to plan their training? Okay, so other topics, your policies. So I know that policy standards and guidelines can be boring. So it is your job to try to make them less boring. So the policies and standards and guidelines that apply to them. So if you have a secure code and guideline or standard, they should know it like the back of their hand. And it should not be 87 pages. It should be 2 pages or 5 pages, and it should be reasonable. Help them create missing guidelines. So I consult at this American company like once a week, and I have been for years, and I love working there. Anyway, like whenever someone's like, hey, well, I'm going to build this serverless thing, me and the other people were like, let's build a serverless best practices guide. Yeah, okay, let's do it. Because then they have guidance from us immediately. And every new project that does serverless has this guidance. And we can get feedback from them and make it better. And it's just this awesome, it is a circle of awesome. Teach them how to be compliant. Help them get there. A thing that you might not be aware of is every time you release like a secure guideline or standard, there are people that are in charge of a bunch of legacy apps, and some of them will be nervous that they will lose their job. Inform them no one's getting fired. Right at the beginning, this is not a stick that I plan to beat you into unemployment with. This is a line in the sand that I want us to all strive towards getting to, and I will help you get there. And when you say that, a bunch of people will be like, oh. So no one's getting fired. It sounds so silly, and you're like, how would anyone think that? Trust me, at least one person's thinking that. And very, very important, their role during a security incident. What to do, what not to do. Please don't ruin the chain of custody. Please call us, don't handle it yourself. Yay! Job shadowing is a great way to teach them this. So if you want them to review code, have them job shadow you while you review code one day. Hold consultations and get the advice of your amazing champions. They are brilliant, they are smart, they have the knowledge you want. So always consult these amazing geniuses that you have made this team with. So more topics, tooling, training on custom training on tools. If you expect them to use a thing, teach them how to use it. Teach them what the output means. Teach them how to validate the results. Teach them how to install and configure the tools. Teach them to select the best tools. Help them select them. Do lunch and learns or hackathons where they just use the tool a lot so they get comfortable. Okay, so coaching is a style of teaching, so I feel the kitty needs a lifesaver. I think that makes sense. So coaching. Coaching means enabling individuals to reach their full potential. It means facilitating the way that they learn to help them make lasting change. And what we want them to change is their attitude and their knowledge around security. If we want them to be practicing a secure system development lifecycle, we need to support them. And if we want our champions to sing our praises and evangelize our message, we need to reinforce that with them all the time. We need to support them. We need to coach them. And so there's the kitty. So for champions, we can set up office hours. We can set up repeat meetings with them. We can help prioritize their security bugs or activities. We need to be available whenever we can for them. We need to help them set goals and then achieve those goals and teach them specific tools or trainings and ask them what they need from us. And then whenever we can, we provide it. Okay, a special note on delegation. Some things should not be your responsibility as the security person. It is not your responsibility to fix all the security bugs, to update the frameworks, to plan releases, to assign bugs, to run every scan, to implement every single tool, to write the unit tests. The list is endless. Delegate when you can. Don't delegate some things. Short list of what not to ever delegate. Do not delegate validating results from a SaaS tool unless you've given them extensive training. Every place I've seen it has been a disaster. Giving security approval on anything that is not their job? No. Using new tools without proper training? Nope. Training new champions? Nope. Those are always yours. Never give that away. Do not delegate. That is your responsibility. You keep that. So we are looking for a partnership. We don't want them to replace us. I'm not worried about job security for security folks. If you work hard, you're qualified, you show up for work, you're going to be just fine. And it is like impossible to hire security people, but don't give those responsibilities away. Those need to be our team. Okay, so there are two types of ways to reinforce and make them feel good for being champions. And one is recognition and one is rewarding. So one's like monetary and one's like social. I am the social type. If you tell me I've done a good job, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the best. I'd rather that than like a $50 gift certificate. I am like so intrinsically motivated by praise. And so people tend to fall into one of two categories. And so whichever one they are, if you can identify it, do that more with them, but otherwise just do both with everyone and you will get good results. So it's important to recognize your champions. We want them to know they're doing a good job and not feel like they're just trying really hard to do two jobs, but they only receive one paycheck, like this kitty. So there's only two kitties in this. So I hope you like this one. She doesn't have a lifesaver. She's trying to do two jobs for one paycheck. Sorry, I like cats. Okay, so recognize. Let's create a certificate and put it on their wall. It sounds cheesy. I have seen so many places where people have this certificate on their wall. Look at that. I have a certificate on my wall and I have another one I'm supposed to put up. You just keep it there forever because you're like, yeah, that's right. I earned that. Recognize them in front of their peers in any way you can. So this can mean giving them a special virtual background that says, I am a security champion. Put a star on their name in Slack or Teams, whatever chat you use. Make sure to put a note in their performance review that says that they're a champion and that they did hard work. Very important, don't miss this. Tell their boss. Every single time they do something that makes a big difference, tell their boss. Send them an email to tell them you saw this awesome thing they did and thank them for it. Show gratitude. Gratitude is kind of magical because when you give gratitude to someone else, you get to feel good and they get to feel good. It's awesome. And make their role on their team clear to their peers. Like whenever you have an all staff, like maybe give a shout out to all your security champions. Oh, yes. I don't have too many memes, but I really do like the most interesting man in the world. Okay, so now reward. We want to reward them. So I've been reading all these parenting books because I am a stepmom now, and so this is like a big change for me. I never had kids before, so I'm reading like a zillion books because that's what I do. I like research things. And a thing it said for adults and for children, for everyone, reinforce good behavior instead of punishing bad behavior. You will get better results. So reward anything that's good. So give them a security related gift. This is the best because you get a double whammy. You've rewarded them, but you've also reinforced security stuff. So buy them a book. I have a bunch of books that I'm going to recommend, mostly mine. Giving them your time as a reward. A lot of people, their love language, like the way that they experience goodness from other people is like time. So give them time and attention. It sounds so silly, but if someone comes to your desk, stop typing what you're doing and move your body towards them and look directly at them. That makes a huge difference. It shows them like, you're my 100% priority right now. And it shows respect and it makes people feel good. Help them with more than just security. Like I've been a dev forever. So it's like, yeah, do you want me to help you architect that? Even if it's not security, like I've got an hour, let's do this. Let them see everything new first. Everything reasonably you can. Let them help you make decisions. One, these people are super smart experts in their field and know lots of stuff. And two, it will make them feel valued. Okay, anything else you can think of? Anything that is okay where you work, like it might be buying ice cream. It sounds so silly, but if it's a thing that makes them feel valued, it was worth doing. Okay, last, don't stop. When in doubt, over communicate. So let's say it's December. So there are 3 major religious holidays at least in December. So there's like Ramadan, Hanukkah, and Christmas. That's a lot of religious holidays. A lot of people take time off in December. That's cool. Send an email out and wish everyone, a happy December and or whatever religious holiday they celebrate, and say we're not going to have, any lunch and learns this month, but I wanted to wish you all like a great month. And if you're celebrating something, I hope it's totally awesome. And here's a podcast that I listened to on the weekend about this, and I thought might be interesting for you. We are going to have a lunch and learn in January on this. I haven't picked a date yet. See y'all then. Just that email to just touch base reminds them you still exist. Don't stop communicating because it will disappear. It'll disappear so fast. It's like it just evaporates. And it's just consistency is key. Even if you just meet with them once a month to check in, some champions will need more attention and time than others, and some will give you more than others, and that's okay. You can't expect A+ from everyone, and that's okay. Even a security champion that does the bare minimum is way better than no champion. If you have accidentally dropped your schedule, start again. Start again as soon as you can, even if it's just an email to tell them that you're starting it the next month. Culture is a practice, like yoga, like meditation. You have to continue to do it. Self-care, all those things. If you just stop cutting your nails, before you know it, you're gonna have those weird, long, really huge nails where you can't do anything useful. I don't mean pretty nails that women have, but where they're out of hand. You have to continue to cut your nails or they become a mess. Is the same as that with your security program, and it will fall apart faster than you think. So be careful. Do not stop. So this is the recipe we followed, and we're totally awesome. And so in conclusion, we learned how to attract the right people to your program, what to teach them, how to reach them, how to engage with them, how to turn them into your advocates, what to delegate, what not to delegate, except I put do instead of to, how to motivate them, how to build an amazing security champions program. This was our recipe, and now I have some free resources because I totally have 1 minute and 2 seconds left. Resources. Okay, so awesome books. So obviously I think my book is probably the best book if you want to learn application security, but there's so many awesome books. And if you're working in some other area of security, that's okay. But DevOps Handbook, Phoenix Project, Accelerate, Unicorn Project, Alice and Bob Learn, A+ in my book. I have a podcast and it's on pause for the moment. So we're not doing it live right now, sorry. But you can listen to all the old ones there, and then we're coming back really soon. Actually, by the time this airs, we'll probably be back with application security tips on everything. Resources, me, AliceandBobLearn.com, so you can come join monthly discussions about the book. You don't have to own the book. You could just learn cool stuff about each chapter. I have a newsletter where I'm a nerd. I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. I have all sorts of crap. Stuff. Come and see me. I wish all of you the gift of spending your life doing strange things with weird people, because honestly, I think that's a wonderful life to have. And thank you so much for coming to my presentation today. Thank you for having me at this conference as a speaker. I really appreciate it. And thank you for fighting the good fight and helping to secure all of the things. I'm Tanya Janca, and thanks.